what an important discussion this is in our society today. And of course, the problem that we have in our world is that different communities are more and more driven apart, unable to speak to each other. So tonight is a chance for us to discuss very, very important ideas about the role of faith and the relationship of faith to science. So you're all very welcome. We have two excellent speakers for you here this evening. Now, despite their obvious dissimilarities, they're both mathematicians, so there's a certain amount that they do agree upon. Father Peter studied maths and is now a Dominican friar, a priest, and John studied maths and now lives in the Kingdom of Fife and is a systems engineer by profession and a humanist by conviction. So they're both very welcome here this evening to help us as we consider and think on these very important ideas. The way tonight will work is both of them will speak for about 20 minutes. Then, for 2 or 3 minutes, they will respond to each other, and then we will open it to all of you.
Thank you, Ben, for that introduction. I'm very pleased to be here this evening. Looking around the room here, I'm reminded of the time when I spoke at a psychic evening. The organiser got up and looked at the vast numbers of people, and he said, "Didn't expect this many people." Although now the blue is covered. Well, I'm not a psychic, and I'm not a religious person, so I cannot predict the future. The case for ID on that day. Other characteristics about me: I was baptised as a baby, I attended Catholic schools, had a Catholic education, and became an ex-Catholic after a lot of soul searching when I was about 20. I never did manage to find my soul. I'm also a bit of an ambassador, and as Tim said, I come from Fife, and I sailed out a while ago on the superfast ferry that goes down to Fort Russell, and it's the Zeebrugge from Fife ferry. This was a conference I went to. It was organised by the United Religions Initiative, and it was about overcoming irritations and prejudices between people of different cultures, religions and convictions in the EU. So I was a sort of international ambassador, and I went to this monastery. This, of course, is a university, so I expect to be given somewhat harder time than I got in the monastery, although there were many people there. There were 60 religious people there, representing about 12 different religions, and me. I was a sort of lion in the Daniel's den. They didn't call me that, not at first. When they got to know me a bit better, they referred to me as Zeebrugge from Fife, which perhaps fitted a bit better. They rather expected a film star to turn up, and we were recording this on video just to see how well it goes. They were expecting Jean-Claude Van Damme, the superstar, to actually turn up. You know, he's the Muscles from Brussels. But they had to make do with me. As you can see, I'm more the shoddy body from Kirkcaldy than the film star like that. Anyway, we must press on with this evening's business. I've taken the title of this gathering as my specification for what you'd like me to talk about. And we can start with that first one. Did man make God? Well, yes, he did. Many times. Here's a few gods that man has made. This is Ra, the Egyptian sun god. He was regarded as the creator of everything by the ancient Egyptians, and the god of the sun. There he is with the sun on his head, and in his hand he has an amulet. There's a closer look at the amulet. The horizontal bar on the cross is interpreted by some as representing the horizon, and the loop that goes around there represents the path that Ra would take as he sailed his boat across the sky every day, and then going into the underworld to fight the forces of darkness and then be reborn the next day. This was how the ancient Egyptians saw the world. Ra was said to have created himself, which is a good trick, out of primordial lotus blossom. And I suspect that Peter and I might get into quantum mechanics on that subject later. You do quantum mechanics?
I suspect not.
He's also created other gods, so he was a man-made God who created other gods. And at the end, he's created humankind from his own tears. Another god that I'm quite interested in is Mithras. And he has been believed to have been born in a cosmic egg. There's the cosmic egg. And the sculpture shows this border around the side, and Mithras holding two things, one there and one there. That's the sword of truth, and that's the torch of light, which of course fits quite well with the title of this talk. So gods were invented by men and women, of course, and they were held to be creators of themselves, of the cosmos, of humankind, and they were the source of truth and light. And that's fairly common. And they often did battle with the forces of darkness, and because of the seasons, they went through a rebirth process. I'll speed this up a bit because we've got a way to go yet. Mithras has got an interesting relationship with the zodiac, in that there's a myth associated with Mithras, spelled differently, where he was believed to have control over the cosmos, because at the time that his religion was at its peak, the sun at the vernal equinox made the transition from Taurus to Aries. This is, we now know this is because of the precession of the Earth's axis, but the ancients saw this as a demonstration of the power of the god Mithras, because he could kill the bull by moving the sun out of the Taurus constellation. And this is an interesting photograph from an actual tomb which shows the combination of the literal interpretation of him stabbing the bull and the astronomical interpretation of the stars on his cloak. So there was a combination of stories and myths that were based on observable scientific facts, like the fact that the Earth was moving. Of course, they supposed that the Earth was fixed and that the stars revolved around it, which made Mithras even more powerful. We now know that's not the case, and the apparent motion that they observed was due to the precession of the Earth's axis. But you would say, I hear you cry. I obviously haven't read this properly. You shall have no other gods before me. It's all very well me talking about all these other gods, but they're not the real God. We all know who the real God is. At least that's what religious people say, but they all say that. What I infer from that biblical quote of the commandment is that even God agrees that man created God, because if God didn't create all these other gods, where did they come from? I.e., they were the invention of man. So yes, man did create gods. And what's more, all those other gods are geographically correlated. There's a map of the world, and it's colour-coded to show the large number of religions that are in the world at the moment. That's a small subset of the total of religions that have existed. This is the Catholic South America and Mexico, Protestant USA, Greenland, Alaska, Sweden and the UK, Catholic Ireland and Spain and France, and then across the Sahara area, the Muslims and the other sorts of Muslims, the Shias and the Sunnis that we hear so much about, the Hindus in India and the Buddhists and other types of religious people in China, and then the Catholic, the Orthodox Christians across Russia. So religion, unlike science, is geographically correlated. My mother was Irish. She was brought up in Ireland, so she was a Catholic. I was brought up as a Catholic because I was part of that geographical correlation. Science isn't like that. Science is much more universal.